But that's what I wanted to add on to, because mistaken, I was listening to her and she said that both experience sexism. But I would argue that women don't experience much sexism, little bit. But I would think that men experience more sexism. And the reason I say that is because what women call sexism is usually just truth. And women get offended. Like, example, one way a woman will experience sexism is, oh, hold on, darling. Give me that pickle jar. I got it for you. Why? Because I'm a woman. You think I can't do it? Men experience sexism as women and children first. Women and children first. Titanic. I think women take truth as sexism.
Could I ask you something about the workplace thing? I'm, I heard it mentioned just now. Like, is it weird to try and make an advance as somebody uh, who you worked with? There's a high percentage of anywhere between like 30 and 40%, depending on what survey you look at, right? That actually met their spouse at work, right? I think it was higher than that back in the day. It's probably declining now because people are actually terrified to talk to the opposite sex sometimes, right? But is that strange when there's a good amount of people who actually met their spouse at work? And I don't think it's a bad place to meet. I mean, I think that you shouldn't harass someone. I think that's fair to say. I think that there should be some type of threshold that we know, like it, but to not be able to engage at all. I mean, sometimes you get to know somebody there. You might really like them. You might fall in love with them. Should I met my wife at work?
I
It,
don't
that
think
it happens.
there's anything wrong with it. The problem is knowing your audience, right? So if one, like I'll say in my situation, one, I made it clear, like don't talk to me like that. Try to use the whole, I don't think you want me to call my cousin, my husband up here, like that kind of, it was clear that it was unwanted, but it continued.
I can
And
see.
Yeah.
and
See that?
what and what the going thing was that, oh, he crazy, like that was the thing. It was excuse, his behavior was excused because it was like, oh, he crazy, you could just ignore him, right? So it was never checked. But then when I found out that my when my direct supervisor reported it, come to find out he already had a record of similar behavior that other women had reported. So in
What?
that so
Yeah.
in that regard, my thing is, I think that situation, I should have never been put in that situation because he shouldn't have been there if there were already an ongoing record of this behavior, right?
Yeah.
But it's
So
when men and women are engaging, if the
okay.
engagement is reciprocal, then it's not sexual harassment. It's when
Got it.
one person is saying, I don't want it,
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
behavior continues, that it becomes
So the
sexual.
only thing I want to say about that, right, is
And we
when
also
you.
got Ari and Aisha at the hand
All right,
raised.
now
So
I'm gonna be real quick about it. I got you. I just want to say when you tell your superior uh, information like that, it behooves him to report it. You gave him no choice because
Yeah,
he
he
has to
told me.
just to CYA, right? Because if something were to transpire after that and then it somehow come out, even if you said it in jest or whatever, it does not matter. He's gonna go down with the ship as well. So he had to. The only thing I would suggest, I hope you did at that point, because it kind of sounded like you might have did it in maybe a playful manner, because you didn't want to make it awkward or anything. But I think it's important to make it as clear as possible. You just, if you have to get serious with them, then you just get serious with them, and you just be like, nah, this is not it. It makes me uncomfortable. If you use words like that, this makes me uncomfortable. Just chill out. I am not digging that at all. I think that we could avoid more situations, and it'll kind of check people, right? He shouldn't
Trev,
be doing that, and you shouldn't be put in that situation. right?
me
At
just
all.
respond
Go
Hey,
one
ahead.
thing.
we do gotta get Ari and Aisha in there, y'all. I know y'all going back
Okay.
and forth, but
Okay, let me
yeah, I
just
know
say this one thing. I
everybody keeps
promise.
saying one thing and it's quick and it will still be
No,
long.
it was something that he directly said. I think, again, that is one of those situations where I would say men have the privilege because they don't understand being in a weaker situation when it comes to that. So women have to navigate workspaces a little different. So me coming off, especially with the fact that I'm new to that job. He already has a base of people that he's cool with. And, me trying to make sure that I balance it. So I'm just saying, as a woman, I'm going to experience it a little different than what you see it. So
That's happened to me before, though.
Hold on,
I'm
y'all. Go Ari. Go Ari. We gotta get to Ari and then Aisha.
No, I just wanted to respond a little bit about the original thing that Trev said about, people meeting their spouses at work and things. So I own 2 companies. I hire people a lot. I've let people go for, issues of sexual harassment. And I do a training on sexual harassment every other week, every time I do an orientation. And there's a legal definition to sexual harassment, right? There's 2 forms: it's quid pro quo, or it's what's it called? Hostile work environment. But I ask my trainees every single time, is it sexual harassment to ask somebody on a date? And there's always a few that think yes, but most of them usually say, I don't know. And the answer is, from a legal standpoint, asking a coworker on a date is not sexual harassment. What sexual harassment is, asking them on a date, they say no, and you don't stop. Right? So if you continue, or you're flirting in an inappropriate way, or they say, like you said, that I'm uncomfortable, and you continue, that's when that becomes sexual harassment. And I do think that you make a good point about saying explicitly that I am uncomfortable. I would say from, a company, like a business owner perspective, it would be great if you said that in writing. Because then, I can bring that to the person when I'm having the conversation about letting them go, or when I'm talking to my legal team. I can say, like, look, I have the screenshot. She told him that she was uncomfortable, and I have the screenshot of him sending her a flirtatious text again, right? So all of that, like, just understanding that there is a legal definition. It's not really this nebulous idea. And it's best if we can be explicit as much as we possibly can. So if somebody were to ask me, or make me uncomfortable, it does help a lot from that legal standpoint to say, I'm uncomfortable, you need to stop, right?
I think that there is a difference between sexual harassment and sexism. I mean, I guess a lot of women on this panel, like, we've experienced both. I know personally I have. I feel like I agree in both instances because I'm HR manager for a lot of companies. I've been in HR for a long time. I agree with Aria that when you're doing these investigations, we need as much. I always tell my employees, like, please email me and put it in writing, right? But sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. And it's been a time when it didn't happen like that for me. And when I didn't respond the way that I should in that moment, it directly impacted one of my employees, right? Because the guy was a high executive, makes the company a lot of money, like money, okay? And it was kind of one of those guys where, like, oh, that's just how he is. And I remember going to, like, his boss and saying, like, nah, this ain't okay. Like, he made too many comments. Oh, that's just, how he is. Da, da, da. I knew that I should have addressed it. Not even a month later, one of his new employees came to me and was like telling me exactly what had been happening and how he had been standing over her and the things he had been saying. And I directly felt guilty because I was like, I could have shut that down. But guess what? When I went to the superiors, and this is $1 billion company, you know what I mean? This is a global company. They pretty much was like, well, that's just how he is. He's a weirdo. He likes looking at women's feet, and you know, you guys have pretty feet, but it's like, so, and it was clear harassment on both ends. It was
Well,
documented, but nothing ever happened. And then
from your perspective though, like, had you responded, like, if he said it to you and then you sent a message saying, hey, what you said earlier made me uncomfortable, right? And then you have all of that documentation, you go to your higher ups, as you said, it's $1 million company, have them document that meeting, right? So if you're like, okay,
I have all this in
they're
writing.
telling
All
you,
this stuff was documented, and still nothing is going to happen. Like, I even
but what
sat
I
here
mean
down
is,
and
like,
had a conversation, and nothing happened. So you can
well,
do all of that. You
well, what
can
I said at that
document it.
point is sue the company. Then that's what because honestly, I know as
Now, let me
a,
tell you, I reached
yeah.
out to the head of the company that was in the UK at the time. I think they were located in Cyprus. All right. It's a television company. They big. I don't want to say the name. Okay. So I reached out to like my boss's boss, and we sat on a call, and she was like literally in tears because there was nothing that she could do to help me. So do you understand what I'm saying? So the notion that there's somehow going to be someone to come in and save the day and really do something, it's kind of like, you can try your best. I had to tell an employee, like, wrote him up. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, we're not going to fire him. He makes the company too much money. So this whole notion that, and then it starts ripple affecting on you and your job. As to Miss Taken's point, like, as women, we have to maneuver a certain way in corporate America, especially as a Black woman. You're the only woman and then you Black. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to maneuver and do things a certain type of way in certain environments. And it's not going to always have the outcome you would hope that it would have. That's what I've learned. And I feel like as far as sexism, I experienced that in the military, because when I was in the Navy, they're like, women can't be divers. I can swim just as deep as they can. You know what I mean? So I just think it's two different things. There's harassment and then there's sexism.